Hello, hello. Looks like I'm live and welcome guys. This is my new home. So excited to be here and to have more light and stuff. I am going to just clean my screen a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay, so today I wanted to talk to you about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is moving abroad. I am a big proponent, as you know, for moving. I think that it's such a big growth opportunity for you to move somewhere and get out of your comfort zone and all that you've known and where you've grown up and get out of like the people that you know and meet new people, see new places, learn about new cultures, because I think that that always helps you learn more about yourself and where you come from, and you get to redefine yourself and you get to, kind of start fresh somewhere new and challenge yourself and do things that are new for you and make new relationships. So I am a totally big proponent for it. I think everyone should do it at least once in their life. But that's not to say that moving abroad does come with challenges. And there are some challenges that I experienced, especially from my move from the US to Vietnam, that I wanted to share with you and talk about how I would have done things differently if I were to go back now. Because I think I did learn a lot while I was in Vietnam. So let me first talk about some of my challenges about living in Vietnam. This was a really hard period for me in my life, and I think I haven't expressed this too much, but it was really challenging for me because the culture was so different and the language was so different, and I really went without knowing what to expect. And there's a beauty to that about going abroad and having no expectations and just showing up and seeing what's there, and that's great that if you can do that, but also I guess I expected for it to just be like this really, really fun experience. And it was so much more difficult than I thought it would be. I'm going to turn on the chat in case you guys have any questions along the way or any comments. So I also moved to Vietnam, running away from some emotional problems that I had in the US. For example, I had gone through a really bad breakup, and I just wanted to leave the US and leave my city, and I wanted to go and start something new and forget all about this person. And that I would like meet the love of my life, maybe abroad or something like that. So I guess the mistake here was that my expectations were set really high. Like I expected that I was going to go abroad and have so much more of an amazing life than I did at home, and that I was going to meet the love of my life and forget about my ex-boyfriend. And that totally didn't happen. And what ended up happening is that this these kind of like negative emotions, the sad loneliness caused more sadness in a sense. And so I just, yeah, I didn't properly deal with that. And I would say that what I would do differently now is sort of really get clear on myself for my reasons for wanting to go abroad and ask yourself, like, what is the real reason? And if it's in some way that you are maybe running away from something that you don't like at home, I would suggest that you look further into that and try to get some help with it while you're home before you go off on your own, where it might be more difficult for you without a support system. And yeah, so that would be my first guess. And I don't think that it should stop you from going abroad if you're unhappy or something at home. I think that a lot of us seek, new places to go to because there's something that we're not really connecting with where we are at the moment. But I would just suggest that you find a support system for you abroad if you're having kind of these sort of issues. And so what I would do differently now is I would seek support I would have sought support in Vietnam earlier than I did. I ended up actually seeking out a therapist in Vietnam, and I so wish I would have done this so much sooner because it was a really hard transition for me to come to a new place where I didn't know anybody, where I didn't speak the language, and I was really frustrated by a lot of things in Hanoi, like the pollution and the traffic, and the fact that people didn't say I'm sorry if they bumped into you, or things, small things that I was used to at home. And this frustration kind of grew and grew. And I was, pretty sad and lonely still about my breakup. And so I went to this therapist, and that was like the best decision that I made. And I totally wish that I would have invested in myself in that way sooner rather than later. And something that my therapist had suggested at this point in time was to create a list of joys. So, a list of everything that I was joyful for throughout the day. And this completely changed my life. And I still do this. I do this as like a gratitude list now, where every day I write down what I'm grateful for, or what joy I experienced throughout the day. So I started looking at things through a different filter. I started looking at things through an optimistic filter rather than a negative one, because I got really negative when I was like really frustrated by everything. So this like kind of made me see that there was so many good things about being in Hanoi, and so many good things about my journey, even though it wasn't perfect. So what I would have done differently is started to look at the bright side a lot earlier, and started to get the help that I needed and the support that I needed in a new place. And for me, that looked like therapy, but for you, it could look like um, joining some sort of club or group, or finding really awesome friends, or Skyping with your friends as often as you need it, for that support. But I think I was really denying how much help I needed in this transition, because I'm a really like independent person. I kind of throw myself into new situations, and that has worked well for me. But sometimes it's hard, and I had to kind of like admit that to myself, and seek out the help that I needed. So also, when I talk about investing in myself, I wish I would have started doing that sooner while I was in Vietnam. And for that, I think I mean, like, I wish I wouldn't have been as cheap. I was really concerned with saving money and paying off my student loans, which was really responsible of me. And I'm glad that, I was responsible with my money. But I wish I would have taken more advantage of how cheap everything was. And you might experience this if you're moving from, like a Western country or European country to an Asian or Latin American country. It's going to be cheaper, I assume. And I wish I would have just balled out more. And, as an English teacher in Vietnam, I was making a good amount of money, and I had plenty to save and to travel with. And um, towards the end of my time in Vietnam, I started splurging more, and I would go and get like manicures once a week and facials like every couple weeks and massages. And I wish that I would have done that like a week, if not more than, since I got there, because it really made such a difference. So this goes into kind of like figuring out what your self-care is, and starting that as soon as you get to a new place. So what are the things that make you feel good? For me, it's to like have my nails done, and get facials, and like look cute, like have cute clothes. And when I was in Vietnam, I actually only brought like a backpack that I backpacked with for 5 weeks, and I lived off of the same freaking clothes for like a whole year. And I really wish I wouldn't have done that. I was trying to be really minimalist and like a backpacker chick, but I got so tired of these clothes, and I just didn't feel cute. Like guess I wish that I would have had a bigger wardrobe, to be honest. Yeah, so just figure out what makes you feel good in a new place. And you don't have to change everything about what makes you feel good just because you're in a new location. And in San Francisco, where I was living before, like I loved my clothes, I loved to look cute, and I wish I would have brought more of that into my time abroad instead of trying to like be so extreme about everything and trying to be this backpacker chick. Let's see what else. I wish that I would have socialized more in Vietnam. And, I do realize that I was going through like a hard time internally, and I did need a lot of time alone. And you kind of have to be intuitive about what it is you need. For me at the time, I think I needed to develop that relationship with myself and spend a lot of time alone. And yeah, that's what ended up happening. But I do wish that I would have created better friendships, or I would have invested more in friendships while I was abroad. Sort of my mentality became that I'm only going to be here for a year, so I don't want to like invest too much into the relationships or go out of my way to make friends. And I was also working. And I wish that I would have had more of a mentality of what would it be like if I were to spend the rest of my life here? What would I really invest in, and what would I take the time to do? So when I ask myself that, like, what if I had to live here for the rest of my life? Then I really get my butt in gear to make it as awesome as possible. And that would have meant for me going out of my way to make friends. So not just like people at work, but also joining clubs. I kind of wish I would have joined like the theater club or something in Hanoi, or, done more meetups, things like that. I especially wish I would have made more Vietnamese friends. So what I suggest for you is, if you're moving abroad, to really aim to make friends from that country, because they will teach you so much about the culture, language, and you will always have friends that you can go back to and visit. I was able to make a couple of friends like towards the end of my time in Vietnam, which was really nice. And they were so sweet. And I wish that I would have really tried to make more Vietnamese friends so that I could better appreciate the culture. In terms of culture, I would suggest that you learn the language of the place that you're going to. I think this is one of the greatest advantages of moving abroad, is this opportunity to learn a new language and in turn learn about a new culture. And for 3 months, I took Vietnamese classes and I practiced every day and I would listen, but it was a really difficult language with 6 different tones. So in order for me to really learn it, I would have had to continue practicing every day for this year and sort of go out of my way to practice with locals and things like that. And I didn't do that. I decided to give up and not learn it, because like I was thinking, I'm only going to be here for a year and I don't know when else I would use Vietnamese. But I think if I would have learned it, I would have had such a more amazing time, and I would have made more Vietnamese friends, and I would have been able to understand the culture more and be less frustrated by it, by the things that I didn't understand. Victor just asked, so you know Vietnamese? Không. That means no. I know a little bit. Em nói một ít Việt. Em nói một ít tiếng Việt. My accent has gone really terrible. But I did have good pronunciation when I was in Vietnam. Some Vietnamese people told me, and I was like, that should have made me like motivated to learn it. But yeah, I don't really know Vietnamese. I knew how to say like the basic things, like especially like I don't speak Vietnamese, and the numbers, and like, how to say basic things like hello, I'm sorry, my name is. But yeah, I wish I would have learned more. Yeah, so for this, that's what I have for what I would have done differently had I gone abroad today. And I hope that it can be helpful for you. If anyone, so much, I will see you soon.